Hello, Chef Marcus Guiliano here, and I'm your chef on a mission. Today's mission is I'm answering a question from Facebook groups on business, on restaurant business, and I'm here at my restaurant, so my restaurant and back. If nobody's ever, a lot of you probably have not been here watching this, that's my insanely stocked bar with all independent spirits. That's our dining room, part of our dining room, our up front and back there. The kitchen's way in the back there. Small place, about 60 seats. I have a back garden, have a front sidewalk dining. So here's the question: what's the ideal best profit margin for menu items? So the ideal best profit margin, that's a tough question. Are we talking about an individual item, or are we talking about the overall, what's your overall food costs, right? So, so here's the general rule. Your labor and your food, see this is a little deceptive here. Your labor and your food, you should consider it as prime cost. And your prime cost should be 65% or lower. That's what you need to really make money, is 65%. Closer to 55%, you're doing much better. If you can get your prime cost, labor and food, under 50%, you're a rock star, and you're one of the very few restaurants that can actually do something like that. So if your food cost is low, your labor cost might be high because you're buying less processed products, more raw products, products that need more enhancing, and you're going to need more labor to do that. If you're buying foods that are already prepared, if you're buying prepared crab cakes versus making your own crab cakes, you're going to pay. It's going to be a lower margin for your food, but a higher or lower food labor costs. It's because those two fight each other back and forth: labor, food, and one's always going to get the upper hand. So one's always going to come out ahead or higher. So if your food cost is higher, then your labor should be lower. If your labor is higher, then your food cost should be lower. Okay, because you have more labor to make more food and make more profit and make more things. So I hope that helps. First of all, prime cost, that's the number you should be focusing on. The second is, I saw some responses to this question. People are like, oh, times it by 4. So if you're gonna make soup, and you're gonna put soup on your menu, and the soup costs you 50 cents to make, you're gonna times it by 4? So 50 cents, by the way, in the bowl of soup is pretty expensive. You're gonna charge that by 4? And put the soup on for $2, or you're gonna put that soup on for $5, $6, $7, $8, $9. See, now you're timesing it by 10 or 20, the soup, right? Now the chicken breast that costs you $3 to put on the plate, you're gonna charge 9, you're gonna charge 15 or 18. And the lobster that costs you $10 to put on the plate, you're gonna charge 40, or you're gonna go back down to 25 or 30. So it's all about your menu sales mix of your biggest contribution items. You want those to sell like crazy. But now here's the thing that's really deceiving. Like the most successful restaurants, most profitable restaurants in the US, steakhouses, which they're known to be very profitable, have the highest food costs. Because they're selling a steak for $80, for $70, and the steak might be costing them $20 to put on the plate. So they might have a 40% food cost for that item. But if it's an $80 entree at a 40% food cost, you do the math on that. That's $50 to stick in the register, basically, okay, as a profit. Most of us aren't in the situation of even selling $50 entrees, so they're putting more into the bank, more of a bigger gap of that profit, or of the difference, because it's profit, right? It's got to pay bills. So they're putting more of that into the bank than you're actually selling your entree for. So food cost is very deceiving sometimes to say, hey, it's whole. Now here's one of my tricks that I do, and a lot of successful restaurants do this. At the end of the month, I print up a sales mix. I say, oh man, my grilled ribeye steak sold really well this month. It's $24. I think I can get 25 or 26 for it. My chicken dish didn't sell that well, and I'd like to sell that chicken dish because I have a lot more margin on that chicken dish. So why don't I bump that back down $1 and maybe sell it more and have a better selling dish, because people might be price sensitive on that. So it's all about analyzing. This is the fun part. This is the part that I love. It's analyzing the sales mix and figuring out how to tweak things. Because if you have a best-selling dish that people aren't batting an eye at buying, and you're selling 1,000 of them a month, you raise it $1, it's an extra $1,000. You do that 12 months in a row, it's an extra $12,000. There's no reason not to do that if that's your best-selling dish. You want to take that best-selling dish and kind of max it out to where you kind of can see the threshold month after month and see the pattern. If the pattern's slowing down, then you say, okay, maybe it is a little too much money. But again, that has nothing based upon your timesing it by 4. You could be timesing it by 5 or 6. So it's really tough. Our biggest challenge in the restaurant industry right now is labor. There's not enough qualified good labor. So you need to be able to make margins on your food to be able to pay for qualified labor. Every time somebody turns over in the kitchen, a new staff member, somebody back there, you're not paying enough and they're screwing up, it's costing you money. It's costing you money that none of us can afford. So if you put that money into staff, hopefully you can minimize that and be a more profitable restaurant overall. So it's not always, it's really not all about just saying a formula across the board. Same thing with wine. If I buy a wine for $5, I'm selling the bottle for 29. If I buy a wine for $8, I'm still selling that bottle for 29. If I pay $9, I'm still selling that bottle for 29. But if I'm paying $15, I'm selling the bottle for 39. If I'm paying $16, still 39. See, so Cornell gave the hotel school there gave a sliding scale out years ago on how to charge things. The smaller the price of the item is for wine, and you can apply this to food as well, the more you times it. You times it by 5 or 6. The higher the price goes up, you do times 3, times 2.5, times 2.5, because you can't take a bottle of Dom Perignon that might cost you $100 and charge 4 times $400 for it. You're going to need to say, hey, okay, it's $200, so I'm putting $100 into the difference again, into the register. I'm going to have a $100 gap. You're going to be selling wine all night long that isn't even $100. So see, so it's the contribution is what you have to look at. I hope that helped you answer your question. I have more videos on food costs and stuff like that at 50mistakes.com, 50mistakes.com. I really love the analytics of food. I'm a numbers person. It's what I think every chef, not every chef, but a lot of chefs are lacking the numbers. That's why a lot of chefs go into business and fail, because they can cook fantastic food. They just can't market their business and they can't manage the numbers on their business. I'm still a chef. I'm a numbers guy. I manage my business and I help other businesses because I just love helping people. I hope that helped answer your question, and leave any comments or questions. I'll be happy to answer more.